So, C3D. As you can see, C3D, lots of similarities with AutoCAD. So if we were to scale a plan on C3D or AutoCAD, it would be the same. So let's have the same example of someone is calling you on site, asking you for a measurement of that pipe or for a different pipe. So how do we do that? First of all, I need to insert that PDF into the drawing here. Before I do all of that, very important, make sure, check your units. UN, enter, and that will show you your units. Our units in meters for civil work, all what we use is meters. Not like structural design, we use millimeters. In civil work, our main unit for length is meters. The angles in degrees, minutes, and seconds. This is our second discussion today about the bearing. Bearing is measured degrees, minutes, and seconds. And the resolution, we go all the way down to each 1 second, the required resolution. Our bearing direction is clockwise. That's one of the points that we'll be discussing today. And our base direction is north. Always we have north is our 0, and that's where we start our bearing. We will talk about this in a minute. The important point that we know, our main starting point, or the base angle is north. That's our 0 for measuring angles. And I'll go okay. There we go. So I've got this information sorted. Now let's say I've got that PDF. How to insert a PDF into AutoCAD? Go to insert, or you can go from here, insert and import. Okay. This is especially on the new versions of AutoCAD and C3D that will import it into lines and polylines. We didn't have that capability before. It's a great feature. So I take advantage of it, guys. So looking here, I downloaded that rodent section sheet I've got online. I'll just select that, which is you can download it and go find it in your downloads and select. It's asking you here about the scale. What scale do you want? We don't know yet, because that's the point of all of this. We need to scale it correctly and giving us some information. Really not too much of an importance to us. Let's just import this, okay? Asking me where do you want to insert it. I'll insert it in this point here. As you can see, AutoCAD or C3D is inserting that. As you can see, the bar at the bottom here. Perfect, we've got it. So that's the drawing here. Okay. Now, if I measure anything here, for example, let's say they ask us about this pipe from, let's say, from this point here. Let's say they're asking about from this point here all the way to that point, intersection point there. Okay, let's say this is what they're asking us, the red part. First of all, as you can see, now the PDF here turned into lines and polylines, so you can work with them, which is a great feature. So that will help you a lot down the track when you work, hopefully down the track when you work with consulting offices. That will allow you to import PDF layouts from the architect or from anyone who've done the previous stages on the design, so you can work with them on AutoCAD or C3D. There we go, going back. So this is the portion that we're trying to measure. But if I measure now, this will not be accurate because I don't know what scale I imported this drawing, and I have no idea the accuracy of that scale. What I've got here, I've got the scale bar. The minute I have that scale bar, that will be a great starting point. So what I need to do is scale it correctly. I select the drawing and I go to scale. And I scale from any point you'd like. I usually go to the point where the scale is. This is the point, the pace point for scaling. As you can see, the more I'm stretching the line, it's scaling it up or down, okay? But that's not, again, that's not the right way to do it. So what should I do? I should enter, as you can see here, it's giving you an option for reference. So if I press R, enter, ask me what's your reference. I'll say I want from this point to that point. Here it's completely horizontal, but just to make sure, I prefer always to click on the ortho to make sure I'm on the horizontal. So from that point again to this point here, and I know this measurement here should be 10 meters, so I enter just 10. Here we go. Now if I measure, go back here and measure that length, that should give me accurately 10 meters, as you can see, with high accuracy. Let me undo this to show you the length before we scaled it. That's the drawing, I think, before we scaled it. So let's measure that length. It's 0.7, so 780 millimeters, 0.78 of a meter. So you can, if you'd like, measure that length, and you want this to be 10, create the ratio between the two. That's what I used to do the old days, but then the feature came on AutoCAD and C3D that we can enter a reference, which is easier. All we have to do is select this drawing. Again, I will do it. So I will go to scale under the home button, and I usually scale from this point here. Zoom in so you can make sure you got to the right point. And asking me for the scale reference, I'll put R to enter the reference, enter, and I say from this point to that point I want it to be 10 meters, and that's again 10 meters, as you can see. Okay, now if I did that, that means everything here is to scale correctly. In other words, if they were asking me, that takes obviously a few seconds when you are good at it. So again, if I go back here to measure that pipe length, choose the aligned length, and I go, let's say they ask me from center of that intersection to the center of that intersection here, roughly to here, and that will give us about 60 meters. Okay, so there you have it. This is how we scale things on scale plans on C3D or AutoCAD. Now, not all the time you've got these plans in PDF. This is very important, guys. This will be your step number one for almost lots of work that you have to do, especially if you don't have CAD layouts. In lots of our designs, we share PDF layouts, okay? Not all the times you get the CAD layout. So this is a very important step to scale our drawings correctly. Not all the times we're working with PDFs too. For example, let's take another example. If we were looking at these subdivisions and I need to measure the width of that road here, for example. So let me just choose a better location, refresh that. This is the map view. I usually use this map view. It has a clearer view comparing to Google Maps. Obviously, we don't use Google Maps at work. We use better even viewers, but for now this is a free version that you can use personally. So let's take an example, the TAFE campus at Regency, for example. So if I zoom into, this is the intersection between Regency Road and Days Road. This is where TAFE is. Okay, so this is, you can go to SA Property and Planning Atlas. So if you search for that, you should be able to find this easily. Okay, that's the website there. So if I show the actual buildings, which is, by the way, very useful tool. I use it a lot. This here, not all the time we insert PDFs into C3D or AutoCAD. There's many times that we use, we insert images. For example, let's say we've got the inquiry. We are consulting engineers, civil engineers. We got the inquiry to design the site drainage, the stormwater drainage for this car park area, for example. Okay, and we sent our surveyors, or an order for our surveyors to go there and start surveying the car park. This may not happen before a couple of weeks time, for example. Until then, what we can do, and that's what we usually do, we use this a lot for preliminary design, for initial estimation. Okay, not for the highest accuracy. Obviously, when we need things to be much more accurate, we send our surveyors and they get us the information correctly. We can get DWG layouts for that entire area. But for now, as a starting point, for me to be able to draw this on AutoCAD or Civil 3D and I start my design, all I have to do, just let's say that I'm just interested about this area here, this car parks, okay? So I'm zooming in to that area, and all I have to do is screenshot. So I'll take a screenshot of that, and you can use the snap tool on, if you'd like, if that's easier for you, the snapping tool on Windows. New snap, and I think that will allow us to snap from here. There we go. Important, very important, guys, that you go to that corner there. Can you see the corner here at the bottom? Okay, where I've got the scale. It's very important to get a scale. Without the scale, we can't do nothing with it. So let's say I've got that. Let's save this view as a JPEG file. I'll save it just under the course material. You can save it wherever you want. Let's call it TAFE car park. Okay, saved it. Now how can we import this into Civil 3D? Let's delete that, we don't need it anymore. The same thing, I'll go to insert, the insert tab. This time instead of going to import, I'll go to attach. And that will allow me to attach an image to my file. It's navigated to the location of the photo. If not, you can navigate to it and anyway find the image that you took, the screenshot of the car park you took, and say just insert anywhere. You're asking for the scale as we agreed. We don't worry too much about the scale initially, we will fix it in a minute. So I'll just enter 200 for now, so I can just place it anywhere. Now this is where we do exactly the same thing. So we'll go to home, scale, scale this item, select the object, enter, asking me what's your base point. I can scale from any point, doesn't matter. How much your scaling factor? I'll say reference R, enter, and I'll zoom in as much as I can, and to be more accurate, I'll go into the center of that black line. That's where I said it's better to click the ortho, keep the ortho on, so you take a complete horizontal length there, and I'll zoom in as much as I can to the center of this line here. I'm saying this measurement here, I want it to be 6 meters. So I will enter 6, enter. Let's check the measurement. If I measure, always check after you do it, please. So if I measure from the center of this point of this line to the center of that line here, should be around, that's it, 596. So it's about 6 meters. Why this is important to us? Because now I can draw this car park easily as an initial layout. Turn off that, and quickly as a quick accurate sketch. So this is a preliminary design, as we agreed. It's not the final design, a preliminary design here, but still it's accurate enough to give us very important information. By doing that, I can measure the length of any of those sides, I can measure the area, I can do all of these inquiries that we need to, or we usually do for civil design. Okay, if anyone, for example, we're looking at this road design, I can easily measure this road width from here to there. For example, it's about 6.8 or 6.9 meters. Okay, next time you go to TAFE, check that measurement for us and see how accurate our information. You'll find it very accurate, impressively accurate as an initial design, especially that didn't take you long at all to get it done. So that's how we do the opposite. How do we measure things on site using the software, and we scale things correctly, scale drawings as a PDF or a aerial view of the site, and we utilize it for our design as a starting point. Okay, now I'm not going to give you an exercise on this one. You've got the PDF. To try the image one, you can choose any site that you are familiar with. You can view your home on this viewer and measure one of the boundaries or measure the width of the road in front of your house, and go outside and measure it, check it yourself and see how accurate your measurement is. Okay, this is a very important tool that we learn, guys. We will need it. You'll see that we will need it down the track when we start talking about subdivisions. If I need to enter the area view of the land, for example, let me give you an example. This area here, to my knowledge, it's newly subdivided into new allotments of residential blocks. So usually we need to understand the constraints about the entry and exit here around the roads. When we start designing the roads for the area here, if there's any existing structures or infrastructures on site, if there's any existing trees. So it's very important that we scale this area view into our drawing. Very important tool we need to be familiar with. Okay. Alright guys, this is it for this video. I'll start a new video in a minute talking about bearing and the rest of our information for the drafting techniques. Thank you.